Namaskar. We welcome you to Himalayan Heritage Foundation once again. We have been going through this series of talks, discussions, and multiple debates on various issues from the auspicious Swami Ram Jayanti series. We started on multiple levels, ranging from strategic affairs and then talking about philosophy, culture, and Kashmir Shaivism, and of course, various ritual traditions. So it was a kind of a very learning experience for of us all. It was not meant to just a kind of a brainstorming. It was not brainstorming, in fact. It was a kind of sensitization. Basically, we were trying to create a kind of consciousness among ourselves, among the people, among the Kashmiri Pandit community in general, but particularly about the international, you can say, audience, so that we could understand the importance of Kashmir in the consciousness of India, the Sanskrit India, the northern frontier, and how Kashmir contributed towards the Sanskritization of India. But unfortunately, what happened in 1990, we started with the base debates on discussions on Holocaust from 19 January, whole month we were debating these things. And today we have a very different speaker, a very proud member of the community, and she's doing a wonderful work. And of course, it's often said that the Kashmiri Pandit youth have not been in the forefront. They have not internalized the pangs of exile. It's their time to pay back to the community and take the gauntlet and just reinforce the, you can say, achievements. And you can say in exile there have been multiple challenges from psychological level, educational level, and a kind of psychosis has gripped us. It has led to a kind of, you can say, degeneration in various fronts, and of course destabilization of families. We are scattered all around the globe. So today we have with us Rohini Vaishnavi. Rohini ji has been doing a tremendous work. She is a, you can say, represents the youth, in fact, the, you can say, new age youth of Kashmiri Pandit community, who, I must say, because this topic today we have chosen is basically community social responsibility, that Kashmiri Pandit youth know that until and unless there is not a well developed, well sustainable community ecosystem to support each other, to support the community in understanding the issues in terms of education, in terms of, you can say, providing support to women, and in terms of just capacity building. She is the founder of RV Learning Foundation. It's an organization which focuses on underprivileged people, children, women, and discusses employability skills. And Kashmiri Pandit youth, have really diversified these days, and they're sustaining. They're making, they're giving a very new community model. And I have seen Rohini ji working her initiatives. She represents those youth, and I think that she has the credentials to be a change maker, be a game changer, and motivate others also. She's an MBA from Zurich Business School, Belgium, and has been working for last more than 2 decades in sales leadership, overseas markets, and has immense, you can say, experience in terms of working in Middle East, North Africa, South Asia, Europe, Australia, and UK. And this brings a lot of exposure to her, and how her experience can be utilized in capacity building, or creating a model in which the Kashmiri Pandit youth can participate. Not only she has been working for others, but being a Kashmiri Pandit who has seen this displacement, she has been educated in these trying times. Today, I would like to ask her first of all, straight away, what kind of initiatives she has been leading. Firstly, as a whole, in terms of RV Learning Foundation, and then we will talk about the community-specific issues. Rohini ji, please tell us about how from sales, from this international exposure, you have created this organization, or you can say a kind of foundation. What actually brought you to form this organization?
First of all, namaskar, Saini Mantarkar. Uh, Good evening, all of you. I see this page, Himalayan Heritage Foundation. I've been watching it for quite some time. And I've seen how this organization is putting the pieces together, trying to restore our heritage and our culture. And it's an amazing work. I've seen the eminent people from various walks of life coming on this platform and sharing their knowledge. And today I feel deeply privileged and honored to be invited here to speak. And Maheshji, you've given a very beautiful introduction of me. Thank you so much. And coming to your question, my journey into the corporate and then into social entrepreneurship. Um, I would say my journey started, our journey just does start the day we are born. But I would specifically talk about the career path and eventually, and incidentally, that the start was in 1990 itself after the Exodus, and that was the time when I stepped into the college. And as any other, youth, I was quite aspirational, but that was a time when we all were disturbed. I remember I had appeared in the first year college examination at that time, and we had written some papers, but some of them we could not. In between, we just left the valley. And then we were clueless about how, when our exams are going to be conducted. There was no college, there was nothing, there was nowhere to go. And slowly things moved, and we got into the camp colleges, etc. And then it was a struggle, of course, because we were outside. We were not in the under the protection of our homeland, I would say. There are a lot of privileges that you enjoy by virtue of belonging to a place. So we were not belonging anymore. After that, I did my MBA. I went abroad to Belgium, studied. I worked. In fact, I worked for some time, and after working, I got some scholarships and I got some bank loans, and that's how I funded my education abroad. And after that, it was, the sky was the limit. I negotiated my way through the corporate sector. I think all of us are going through that grind in the private sector, um, whether it's the CEO of a company or it's the sales executive. Everybody has to really work hard to be where they are. And I worked in sales leadership roles in multiple Indian and multinational companies. And my corporate career ended with a role which was where I was heading a business for a Kuwaiti company, and it involved extensive travel to Middle East primarily, and to Americas and Europe, etc. So it was like, you travel all over, you meet people from multiple cultures, you work with them, and especially you meet also women in different cultures, and you see that they're all the same. So it was a great experience. But being a woman and a mother, I thought of taking a back step, and I uh, I quit that job because I couldn't travel too much. And then I moved on to teaching. I was teaching with the business schools in India as a faculty, teaching them marketing. And then came this, the social entrepreneurship. So there were, I think that motivation behind doing social work is deeply personal. You know, social work is something which you do when you feel for a cause. So there are people who are animal rights activists, probably they love animals, There are people who are environmental activists, so they have some feeling for a particular cause. So I think for every individual, the motivation for social work is very personal. Sometimes people may as well come across any tragedy in life, or there might be some memorable incident um, which has touched their heart, because or some people would be naturally feeling, they see a beggar and they think that why do I have, and he or she doesn't have, and they just want to give away things. I also had my own motivations behind this. As I said, I traveled extensively, and I traveled mostly into the developed world. So I traveled all the to all the prosperous countries of the Middle East, so like Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE. That's all developed world, and to US America, they are anyways developed. And I also traveled to Dhaka, which is a little bit, I would say, behind us. So I got to see these countries, and somehow unconsciously, I started drawing, you know, a comparison between our own country and the places that I had visited, which were economically so advanced and developed. And I also had a feeling, towards this thing, that why do we lag behind? Why are we not clean? Why do we have beggars on our roads? Why do our children beg on the street lights? So that was the thing which actually touched me. That was one thing. The second thing was, the we our organization works in the area of women entrepreneurship. So what we do is basically, we help women who have given up careers at some stage in their lives, who are educated, but obviously they are the primary caregivers for their families. Therefore, they have to be there, for their children, and they have to take a break. At the same time, they are also talented as their brothers or as talented as their husbands, and they have their own aspirations, and they have also spent a lot of energy and time on their education. So what happens is that when the children grow big, when they don't need you as much as they needed you when they were very small, that's the time when they start feeling, maybe, what is it there for me? So where do I go now? That's the time where a woman is clueless that, I invested so much, and what is there for me? Of course, bringing up a child is, I think, the greatest achievement of any woman, and the learning that comes through it, and the other things. So that's not comparable. But at a certain stage in life, you start feeling that now what is there for me? So since I have myself experienced this, so I feel for this. Now, what we do is, under our Women Entrepreneurship Initiative, we help these women with the essential knowledge, which can help them to come back to the workforce. So we talk about the funding options for businesses, or what are the various options available, what are the things they can do. We conduct skill development programs for them, and we also do things which build confidence. We do counseling so that they can be up on their feet. So that's our venture, which is into women entrepreneurship. So we also give them networking platforms so that they can network with people who are in the positions of power, or women like them, and they can find some synergies and they can find some opportunities. So that is one part of what we do. And we also work on the education of the underprivileged children. So we are tying up with various universities, wherein we use their campuses for conducting classes of the children of construction workers. And There are a lot of students from the same institutions who are very excited about volunteering, and they teach these students, and we provide them books and other things. So that's the initiative on education. And the third initiative is on the employability skills. Now, again, the motivation for me for coming up with employability skills was that when I was teaching in the business schools, I found the students to be good, when it comes to the subject matter expertise, but they lagged somewhere in communication skills, or they were also clueless about what exactly is there, outside the campuses, which means they had no clue about what the potential employers are expecting from them, or what should they expect from them. So, in spite of having very good, being academically good, they were not able to really make it big in the corporate. Communication skills being one of the major area where they lagged behind. And you know everything, and still when you go in front of a person, you don't know how to communicate. It's disheartening, because you work so hard at something, you know something, but then when it comes to really realizing your potential and communicating to the rest of the world that this is what I can do, this is what I'm capable of doing, and you're not able to do it. I remember there was a student of mine, I was teaching the MBA class. He was from Andhra Pradesh, and he told me, he said, ma'am, I have gone to an English medium school, and of course, they also charged good money. But the thing is that I can't speak English. So that was really sad. And this guy was really bright. So that's the time, when it came to my mind that we should do something in the area of employability skills, by virtue of being in the corporate sector and now having seen the academics also. I thought I could be a bridge between the two. So that's how the employability skills came into existence. There is another initiative also, which is on diversity and inclusion at workplaces. So we offer consulting to organizations to make the workplaces more inclusive, more conducive for work, for a diverse set of people, of which the women make, I would say, constitute the major part. But in addition to that, it could be people with disabilities, or people, belonging to different uh, color, race. So that kind of an inclusion is something that we work on. We are also working with clients abroad, overseas, and also working on some partnerships with American universities. And our consultants are already delivering programs to American clients online in the area of diversity and inclusion. So that's, I guess I've answered your question broadly,
Okay, so you
what
have
we do.
explained beautifully about, comprehensively about your foundation and how you put your experience in wide areas, and you have gained experience across continents, and you are just investing that experience, that's very important, into your foundation and trying to act as a bridge. Now, the
Yeah,
question
that's
comes, as
right.
you rightly said, because I think you're the right person to whom I should ask, because you have seen the turmoil, the period of our, you can say, displacement after 90s when we were in wilderness. How you
Yes,
rightly said, the college results, we are in doldrums. We never were sure how results will be declared in the colleges. And there
yes,
were camp classes going on. We are not certain about our rehabilitation. Whether we never had the shelter. We are in camps or rented accommodations. And
yes.
you have internalized that problem, and your experience in this kind of whole of foundation, your expertise in marketing, your in business studies, and how you visualize, how can you visualize a model for the community which has gone through such a trauma, so that community sustains the youth? How can youth now we have a tremendous exposure because we're scattered. Our youth have a diverse experience, the Kashmiri Pandit youth.
Yes.
How do you say that how can community youth pay back to the community in exile so that we have a sustainable model to survive, not looking on the things like on the government roles or things like that?
Hmm.
How the entrepreneurship in its first place and how self-help groups can be created. The people, for example, you are working with underprivileged people at a
Yes.
macro level. But how can you think that this model, which you have created, I must say, is implementable to our own brethren, our own sisters in, you can say, camps like Jagati, Purkhu, or Nagrota, or other places where we are? How can you visualize a model which can help in sustainability in terms of skills and livelihood? How you like to see the youth contributing towards it? Because all of us are in different fields. This energy
Right.
can be conversed and helped our own people to create a
Hmm.
self-sustaining ecosystem where they are not dependent on some sort of. What is your opinion on
Yeah, that's actually, a very great thing to think about, that we do not depend on the external donors, and we come together as a community and, synergize. Each one of us has some strength or the other. I think there are some organizations who are already, putting together the talent, um, and creating foundations. That is the first thing that comes to our mind. So we create foundation, we get these people together, but the question is that of, actually implementing the plans and making the benefits reach the people. I think what has happened after 1990 is that, uh, as you rightly said, we are scattered, you know, and this scattering, what it has done is that it has affected us differently. A single calamity can affect different people differently. Like in COVID times, there were some businesses that really thrived, which were digital, whereas others were really decimated. The similar thing has actually happened to us also, because we were all affected differently. Amongst us, there are many people who are doing extremely well, and amongst us, there are some people who were not able to get access to those resources which the other part got access to, because of which they could not grow the way they grew. And now you talk about the model. I would say any model can be successful if we have the will and we have the desire, and we really deeply want a change in the community, you know so I would say that, first of all, we all need to have that motivation. We all need to ask ourselves, why do I need to contribute to the to my community? I think each one of us is very busy in our own lives, in our own, I would say, creating livelihood for ourselves, because life is not easy, life is tough. It's, whether you are the CEO of a company or you are the sales executive, you have to negotiate hard to be where you are, or you are a businessman or businesswoman, you have to negotiate hard. So the world in which we were born, the world in which we were raised, is very different from the world in which we are actually negotiating our way through. So, whatever we were taught, when we were kids, probably all those solutions may not work in today's time. I'm not saying all of them, but at least some of them. But yes, the value system remains there. Value system remains. Now, coming back to your question, when you say the model, why I'm making this point is that lives are tough. There are challenges because of which people tend to forget their duties towards the very community where they belong to. And they also try to look for answer to this question. I would say, why should I do it? So it has to start from there. Any model can be created. We are all creative people. We have skills. There are people who are good at project management. There are people who are good at research, various other fields. But Putting together those skills and developing a model starts from a thought. It starts from a simple thought that I want to give back. And why should they give back? Let's try to. I'm not saying that I'm an authority into answering this question as to why I should give back, but I'll make an attempt. So, I think that people derive their identities from their roots, from where they belong to. So, what happens is that at some stage of life, we are so absorbed um, in our day-to-day work and even the entertainment and enjoyment of life that we may not really require. Suppose I live um, anywhere, anywhere, obviously outside Kashmir, and I have a reference group there, and I'm quite happy with that. I don't even think that there is a need to, you know, associate with my own community. I have a reference group from my workplace, or I have a reference group from my college, and I'm quite happy. I'm enjoying my life, or I'm negotiating with life. I'm struggling, anything, but I'm busy. I'm busy. I don't have the time to think why I should be contributing to the community. But the but after having my experience says that after having traveled around the world, after having um, connected with people from various backgrounds whose cultures are also interesting, they are happy, they are well off, and there's no dearth of anything there. So, but I do feel sometimes that in spite of having gone around the world, at the end of the day, I would say that we all want to come back home. And we derive our identity from where we belong, right? So it's hard. Maybe I would also have forgotten at some stage in my life that I need to connect back because I was also busy. Likewise, everyone is busy. But there is a need to, have that uh, thought in our mind that why do I need to give back to the community? I need to give back to the community because that's my identity. That's the identity of my children. And now, why do I need that identity? A person without an identity is like any plant without a root, which can um, die, which has the potential to die. Therefore, when you ask about a model, I would say it is important that we first of all believe that giving back to the society is important, if not for anyone, for my own personal identity. Because if they don't, if the ecosystem around me is not flourishing, um, I alone stand out there, it doesn't really make a sense. So, as I said, altruism is a highly personal decision. Um, you have to feel for something, and different people feel differently. There are many communities, in the world, in India, who really do a lot of stuff for each other. If you see Sindhis, they make sure that wherever in India they are, they follow their rituals, they follow their culture, and they speak their language. Language happens to be an essential part of our culture which binds us. So, or you see Jews all around the world, the story of Jews we all know. I think that's the worst of its kind. But all over the world, wherever they are scattered, they they connect with each other, they identify with each other, and they make solid contributions also for their community. So it starts from the thought to begin with. Then coming back to the model, if you really have the willpower, we can pull in all these skills that we have, all the skilled people that we have. Um, so once the desire is there, the modalities can be worked out. I know of people who do with little means, who have actually contributing in spite of having little means. And I know some youngsters in Jagti also uh, conducting sports events, in spite of not having the means. But what drives them? It's a desire. And why do they want to conduct sports event? They want the sports event. I'm interacting with people, and they want the sports event to be conducted because they think that people are living in very closed spaces, right? We were used to living in big houses in Kashmir with a lot of space around us, but now it's kind of a it's very closed space, and they really need to open up. And physical activity happens to be extremely important, and which also has an impact on how you think, the way you feel, the way what you believe in. So they do it. They don't have the money to buy a badminton racket, but they are mobilizing resources. So how do they do it? Models can come, but what has to be there is the desire. And in Jagti also, there is work happening in, I think, in the education, for the education also. We have, I think, Helpline Humanity is there, who is doing a lot of work, and they have started a library, and they've been doing it since 1990s. So the desire has to be there. And the example that would come to me upfront is the example of my own grandfather, Sri Amarnath Vaishnavi. So a man with no money, empty pockets. How could a man like him mobilize the resources and lift thousands of people out of the gloom by providing, by creating resources, whichever way, negotiating with the government, with the politicians, with the bureaucrats, getting the support from people who are in the positions of power, and moving the resources from here to there and providing it to the people who needed it most in the form of education, educational opportunities, the reservations in educational institutions that we have today all over India. It required a lot of negotiations with all the state governments, and then providing the basic amenities of life, whether it is the food, it is the shelter, um, and everything. So he and his team, a lot of people were involved in it. So how could they do it? When Kashmiri Pandits flew from, when they ran away from the valley in 1990, it was it was something sudden that happened. No one had planned for it. So do we always plan for models? No one planned for it. And I remember an incident which my grandfather narrated to me. He said that I was near Shiv Mandir, and I saw some families getting down from a bus, and they were looking here and there. They were carrying big suitcases, and I went to them and I asked them. I said, uh, I felt that there was something wrong because he had moved out of the valley a month before. He had got some information that there was a threat to his life. So he had moved out a month before, and then he saw these people, and he asked them. And he said, he asked them, "Why are you here?" So they lied to him. They said, "We've come here for a wedding." Um, he said, "You tell me what is the truth. I am so and so. You can tell me." So after hearing his name, they told him that we've actually run away with nothing. So that was the time, it was not a planned activity. That was the time Hiralal Chattaji, he bought a notebook and a pen. And they said that let us start writing the names of the people who are migrating from there. So that's how the registration started. The government had not done registrations. They had not started the process of registration. But it started with the Sahayata Samiti and people from Ask PC doing it. And that's how a model got created. So there has to, and the government later on, I've heard Vijay Bakayaji saying that then we asked them to provide us their records so that we could update ours. So the answer to your question, models get created if we have the will to do it.
Exactly. I was listening very patiently and trying to understand the things. It was like reliving that pain of Exodus. It's basically a kind of death immersion
Yeah.
to go through that process of Gita Bhavan and that registration. And we had that basically will, in spite of all desperation, state gone wavered, law and order not in position, intelligence apparatus failed, and we're
Yeah,
on our own. As you rightly said, it was just a bombshell, not planned one, that this destabilization took place. And
right.
after that, situations and rightly thoughts and motivation and conviction creates models. That's right. And the
True.
kind of ecosystem you built. So
Yes.
now you're saying what actually you see are the challenges that you should address in the community, because I'm trying to be community specific, because
Hmm.
keeping you have seen different societies, you have seen
Yes.
underprivileged societies, as you rightly said, you have been to developed countries,
Yeah.
and there is a gap. Already there is a gap between developed and underdeveloped countries or developing countries. But given our situation, we are internally displaced people. Were wrongly described as migrants. We have not
True.
come. We are not nomads who have left for pastoral kind of a thing. We
True.
are internally displaced people within the own state, within the own
Yes.
country, within the border. So as
Yes.
such, this religious cleansing, which we call a genocide, has taken a place of our community. In such a situation, what there are challenges, of course. How facing those challenges? What should be the thrust areas for the youth? Exactly, I mean to say the professionals. By youth, I don't mean to say the underprivileged youth of the community. I mean to say the people who are
Yeah.
empowered, the people who have gone through this
Yes.
rigmarole, and how can they help
Yes.
to create a sort of ecosystem where we sensitize the people and as you rightly gave the example objective that people are trying to activate themselves within the ambit of resources.
Yeah.
So in years to come, in 5 to 10 years, where do you see what kind of mobilization you see from the people who are professionals like engineers or the management graduates, or you can say postgraduates, or people in different fields? I will come to the next question.
Yeah.
But before that, how do you think that we can contribute to our youngsters, how we can sensitize them to create a self, you can say self motivating system where we are not desperate, because going home may be a long drawn battle
Yes.
till we claim our homeland on our terms
Hmm.
with a guarantee of non refoulement. But till then we have to sustain, keep the community ecosystem in terms of society, culture, and empowerment intact. What is our opinion?
See, I would say that we have to start looking at ways and means to support our community people in different ways. Um, we have, as we said, that there are people who are already, I would say, doing well in their lives. What we need to do is that we need to start encouraging. For, I think networking is the biggest strength. Being in the positive networks is the biggest strength. And we have a lot of Facebook groups and all of that. But the real networking comes with knowing people individually. So I think the people who already have resources, they need to reach out to people who do not have. We have digital technologies in place and extend the opportunities to the deserving members of the community. There are people who do not have the opportunities, but they are talented, they are good. People who have the opportunities, who have control over the opportunities, I think they should voluntarily reach out the way we are trying to reach out. They should voluntarily try to reach out to those who do not have and open up the opportunities. By that I mean in terms of the educational opportunities, which I think Kashmiris already have that, um, in terms of opportunities within the skill development area or within the jobs as well. We have a lot of Kashmiri Pandits who are the CEOs of the companies, who are the owners of businesses. I'm not saying that, you take anyone who comes to you. I'm saying that there are a lot of talented people in our community. They are good, but they are looking for opportunities. So what happens is that if we should create such an ecosystem whereby we see another Kashmiri Pandit and he smiles back at us and feels the kind of brotherhood. So, do we have that right now? I don't know. So, that has to be there. That that kind of a brotherhood, that kind of a desire to, reach out to them. So I think we all need to probably um, uh, look into our resources and what all we are capable of contributing. So it's all about those who have uh, trying to reach out to the others. And there are modalities which can be worked out, like we also have a website, and we conduct these events on and off, where we specifically target people from Jagti also, from Purku also, even for our scholarship scheme that we have launched. So we are reaching out to these people. We are making full use of the digital technology to reach out to them. Like recently, we conducted an essay competition where we invited youngsters all across the world to participate. They had to write essays on topics which are pertaining to our own culture. So it's about reaching out to them, because see, we are fortunate right now to have these digital technologies with us. It again boils down to our willingness to do so. If we have the willingness, we have to reach out. I think we have to reach out. If you ask me specifically, what do we have to do? One, desire to do. Two, reach out and feel for your community. But are these things which can be forced upon someone? But through this program, I would definitely try to reach out to those people who have the desire to do good to people around them, to their own community. There are lots of people, but somewhere they are kind of, lost because of their negotiation with the life, and it doesn't remain a priority. It may be in their mind to do it, but they're not doing it. We always try and postpone it to a later date. Okay, I'll do it next year, or maybe once I'm free with my job, then I'll do it. But I would tell them that time is very short. You know, time is short. Even if you live for 90 years and you keep saying every year that I'll do it next year, then the time is short. So I can appeal to the senses of those people who are willing to do it but not finding the time to do it. They can contribute, in small ways also. The smallest way could be that, if you have some skill, share it with people of your own community. Even if you talk to them, say once in 2 months, that's also a contribution, and that's also one way to start. Because when people, when our youngsters who are looking, who are looking forward to a life, when people like us come and talk to them, it gives them a confidence that yes, if these people could face so much of turmoil and still come out of it, then we can also do it. This is a small contribution. You're just giving them a small stroke, uh, an emotional stroke, which makes them feel good, which gives them a hope. So contribution can be small as this. It can be as small as volunteering for, you know, any of the social organization, or it could be you start up an organization of your own, like we have started RV Learning Foundation. So it's all about, the desire, and then reaching out to people. And if you can't make a big contribution, make a small contribution, but please feel for the community. Please feel that, they are your own brothers and sisters.
Yeah, you made a very important point, that desire and then reach out. That's a very important point you made. In fact, the sense of pride in the community, because this community was a community which has a sense of pride in terms of literacy. We are a 100% literate community. There is no doubt about it. And
Yes.
it's really a misvirtue. It was very easy to educate or sensitize a community which is literate. And it's at
Yes.
times very difficult also, because the trauma has led to a kind of psychosis. And to defreeze the community from that mental frame is very important. And reaching out, creating our own case studies, or that those case studies from within the community will help to decrease this psychological depression and create more the kind of chain reaction that you are actually talking about. And this chain reaction will ultimately create a very strong social setup. And rightly you said, this digital technology has bound us all. If there are even small things we are doing, we are connected, we are knowing about each other. And one good thing has happened that people have started sharing. As you rightly said, sharing is very important.
Yes.
Not keeping cards close to our chest, because after all, it's the whole community which is in turmoil,
True.
which is in a state of homelessness. We are all stakeholders and contributors in this process. Now, I have a very layman's question, because it should concern us all. Because till 90s or early 90s, it was a compulsion to have a kind of, you can say, some anchor in terms of, you can say, having these engineering courses. People were running after those courses so
Yeah.
that they had some anchor. No, I think that it has been, basically, it has served the purpose to give
Yeah.
a kind of anchor, but
Right.
it has demerits also. We have to look back. We have to do some critical analysis, SWOT analysis, I must say,
Hmm.
because what has happened over the years, our number, our human resource in skills in terms of different fields has decreased. There are very
Hmm.
little people who are in sociology, who are doing
Right.
research in sociology, history,
Right.
or for that matter, literature,
Yes.
or you can say humanities, or
Hmm.
other areas. What has this led to? This has led to a kind of, you can say, intellectual bankruptcy in the community to create the argument and the narrative. And you can see the society from where we're thrown out. We are not
Hmm.
able to articulate the things because we are not doing research. We are not giving multidisciplinary education to the new generation. This has to change. After 95, 96, there was a need for this reservation. It is very
Right.
important for others. But this human resource diversification is important for creating a self sustainable mechanism so that our youth are able to expand the horizons and contribute to the community. It has led to a kind of demoralization. We are not able to articulate. Our people are
Right.
not able to articulate because they don't have the first hand information in terms of various fields, various disciplines.
True.
So, what do you think that this educational boom should spread into various areas? This has stagnated us. We should look beyond engineering now and try to create a comprehensive multidisciplinary education system in the community if we have to fight this battle in exile to keep ourselves empowered.
True. I mean, I think it's a very valid point. What I have to say in this regard is that there is, in our Indian society, there is an inherent, I would say, inclination towards telling our children that you have to study science, you have to do engineering, and it's not happening today. It is not since 1990, or it has not been created by the reservations. It was there all along, that you have to study science. If you are studying humanities, then there is probably something wrong with you, or you are not intelligent enough. You don't have the capability. That thinking was already there, so that is not new. Coming to reservations, I think that reservation is in education as a whole, not just in the engineering courses. Okay. Now, having said that, since this bias is already there, in the whole of India, now this bias is doing specific harm to our community because we are not normal. Our situation is not normal. We are not like any other community of India because we are displaced, because we are struggling with retaining our cultural identities. We are dispersed all over the globe. So, this bias which is there, which may not affect any other community as much as it is affecting us. So, therefore, your point is quite valid. And at that point in time in 1990, I think the education which came to us, this reservation thing that came to us, it really pulled us out of the gloom, and it was necessary. But today, I would say that, generally speaking, world has changed, and a lot of things have changed now. Therefore, uh, what the education that would fetch us results then may not fetch as many results that we were getting at that point in time. That happens. It's a general thing. As the time changes, there are requirements for different types of skills. Now, if you see, in 1996 came the era of globalization, right? Till then, the economy was closed. So that was the time when privatization happened, banks got privatized, media, we started having media channels from abroad, we started having products from outside, started having companies from outside. So the whole nature of jobs that changed, the type of jobs that you get. Now, if you see today, so many engineering colleges have mushroomed, and there are so many engineering graduates, and not everyone is getting a job. So that way, I would say, if you are into IIT or somewhere, okay, you, or NITs, you can get decent jobs, but there is a very low possibility. So that's about what sells in the market. What are the skills that are in demand? So from that point of view, yes, I think I would, what I would say is that the parents have to actually, um, you know, come over this bias of pushing their children into studying engineering or becoming doctors. There is a lot more beyond that. I'm speaking very generally right now. I'm not really talking about community specifically, but I'm talking generally. I also have a daughter. Now she has to take a decision with regard to what subjects she has to choose in 11th, and she wants to study humanities, and it's fine. So, but now this, as I said already, this has created a unique problem for our community, particularly when we are fighting against a kind of the, our culture coming in the on the brink of extinction. So that becomes all the more important because we know of instances where the history has been deliberately changed. Even the names of the places of our worship have changed. So I think if we do not wake up to this now, probably, after next 20 years, we will not have any clue about who we were, and, what is our cultural heritage. So I think you have rightly said that we should encourage our children to study art, literature, because if you see right now, how many of us have really any hold over, I would say, the handicrafts, or any, of Kashmir. So how much of we how much of, I would say, the ownership of the things belonging to Kashmir do we can we claim by virtue of our knowledge and involvement in those activities, right? Whether it's the literature, as you rightly said, or art, um, there is least, even music for that matter, though we have children who are singing Kashmiri songs, but then the language, you know. So I think, yeah, the point is valid, and it's very necessary for our community, especially as we are in this unique position, to encourage our children to study literature, to study art. That's important. Yeah, I agree.
Yes, you again, basically, what is very important in exile, Holocaust or genocide, is that place consciousness has to be kept alive
Yes,
because memory in exile is the shield
true.
to undermine this genocide. So, as
Yes,
such, you have underlined very important things. In we can only fight this war. Our education has been our weapon to fight this war. We have not picked stones. We have fought this war in a very, very different way. If history will be written, history in the history it will be written that there was a community of Kashmiri Pandits who came out of this genocidal attrition in a very novel way. They fought it with educational weapon, and that is how we are fighting it. And now the time has come for innovation because we have to build a grand narrative to exist, to, you can say, preserve the culture, of course, to preserve the language. It's because language gives you place consciousness, aesthetics, and the whole gamut of things, as you rightly pointed out. So I thank you very much, and I feel that it was a very freewheeling discussion. It was just a kind of sentiment, kind of internalization, kind of death immersion we have had in this exile. And I hope with your example, with your you can say kind of leadership you have given, because mostly it is thought that people are not doing anything, but we must say that people are working silently, efficiently, like you, with conviction, confidence, expertise, and experience, and paying back to the community in a very different way. And I hope your presentation will be a game changer. It will have a, well, you can say, multiplier effect in terms of chain reaction, in making people understand that we have to look inwards. Now we have to change a bit, change in the sense, do a kind of value addition in our struggle. People are fighting at political level, that's good, but we have to fight at social level to socially empower our youth, make
True.
them understand that we can do it on our ourselves. We are a literate community, we can
Yes.
experiment. We have a greater magnitude of experimentation than other communities. That's why we have sustained. Rohini ji,
True.
so nice of you. Thank you very much. We hope that you will keep on contributing, and through your RV Learning Foundation, you will really make yourself a kind of a role model for youth, in not in the community, but in the country or internationally, because from the exiled community, you are a role model outside also for the communities, I must say. I hope your experience and expertise will benefit the community. Thank you very much. So nice of you. Namaskar.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm deeply honored that you chose me and you spoke such good words
Privilege.
about me. And I also appreciate the work that your organization is actually doing. In the form of putting these pieces together and trying to restore and document um, the culture, that we are so fondly trying to preserve. And I hope that whoever is listening to us or will listen to this will be inspired to some extent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Namaskar. Thank you.